Hi, I'm Chuck Braverman. This is Westdoc Online, where we bring you everything about documentary filmmaking. But today is a bit of an exception, as you will find out in a minute. But first, I want to remind you we're brought to you by Real Screen. Real Screen Summit is coming up in February in Miami this year, February 3rd to 5th. Go to our website, westdoc.net. It's the new URL. Go scroll down to the bottom. There's a Real Screen icon there. Just click on it. It'll give you all the information. It's a great event for buyers, sellers in the documentary, reality, non-scripted world. So let's say hello to our producer, director, guest, Marc Marriott. Hi, Marc. How are you?
Hello. Good to be with you.
It's great to have you. I always ask my guests, where are you speaking from? Meaning, what city here?
I'm in Los Angeles.
What part of LA are you in?
La Crescenta.
The reason I am having you on the show today, beside the fact that you've made a charming, wonderful little feature film called Tokyo Cowboy, is because I discovered after seeing the film that you really have come from a documentary background. And I think it's quite unusual that documentary filmmakers overlap and do scripted and vice versa. I think it's probably even harder for a scripted director to make docs. But I'd love to know first a little bit about your non-scripted doc, Discovery Channel, History Channel. I'm cheating because I know a little bit about you already.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of interesting because I started out really with an eye toward doing scripted narrative work. And went to UCLA Film School, their directing program there, did several, narrative short films. And then when I started my career, I started working immediately in documentary reality work. I had a friend and a neighbor who was working for a company called Film Garden Entertainment. And they were doing a lot of shows for Travel Channel, History Channel, and she asked me to come and be a field producer, and it really was a wonderful experience. And so then I got fully immersed in as a field producer with a lot of different shows, so television shows, and did the first season of Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay. Then I moved on to be a series producer. I did this show called Driver X for Discovery Channel. I did a show called Axemen for the History Channel as a series producer. And then started doing a lot of other documentary type work, corporate industrial work that was documentary in nature. Did a lot of work for Chevron over the years and other big corporations, and just a really, really wonderful experience doing that. The thing that one of the things that I just loved about documentary work was being able to, get fully immersed in a completely new world that I had no idea about. Like when I did this NASCAR show for Discovery Channel, really had no idea about NASCAR. And then, all of a sudden you're on pit row with Jack Roush and his team, and you're learning and you're having these amazing experiences, and it's brought me all over the world.
Looking back now as a scripted director too, what do you think was the most valuable thing you learned from the documentary world that might have helped prepare you for the feature film that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, I started developing this way of working in documentary. Most of what I've done the last 10, 15 years, I've done as a kind of a one-man band kind of approach, right? So I'm operating the camera, I'm running the sound, I'm asking the questions. There's, the person is just looking at me. There's not a lot of, there aren't any other people behind me. I'm using, limited lighting and but just making it look really good with just a few lights. And I really felt like that brought an authenticity to the interviews. That's one of the things that I became known for, I'm still known for, is kind of just like real authentic voices and content. And so that, I think, does really translate into narrative work. It did for me. I wanted this first film, this first feature, this first narrative feature to be very authentic, very grounded. And in documentary, I feel like a lot of times what you're trying to do is use a gentle hand and not get too involved and not overproduce something or over direct something. And I think that's very important in narrative work, that you need to cast it properly. You need to set up all those, all of your different people that are doing the art direction. All of these things, get a really great script, and then kind of allow things to happen, and not be too heavy-handed in how you're directing, particularly actors. I think actors, if you cast something right, you can really allow the actors to bring their experience to bear, and then the way that we shot this Tokyo Cowboy, we did a lot of kind of long moving master type of takes. We didn't get every single angle and cut, and so it allowed the actors to kind of just like really live inside these performances and feel the rhythm of each scene, and I felt like that was something that I kind of learned through documentary.
Brings back so many thoughts and memories to me about, as soon as you said long, master shots, having done a lot of episodic shows myself, I know what producers want more than anything is coverage, so that they can cut up your work. And when you give them a shot that's just absolutely brilliant, that goes, for more than 30 seconds, and something's happening, they go crazy.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the trailer for Tokyo Cowboy.
There's an old joke. How does a rancher make $1 million?
Wow.
Starts with 10 million.
Losing money, not funny. I want to help you grow. Let's look for a new market. Wagyu beef, Japanese cow. Change now.
What is that?
Here is the future.
You could change their mind, get them to trust you. You gotta speak their language. Feel the weight.
Yeah.
なんでそこまでしてここに執着してんの？
農業のこと一切何も覚えてないんです。
けどちょっとずつ思い出してきたんちゃうか。
一緒に行かなかったの後悔してる。一緒にいられるのが最後の気がしてたから。
What have you been doing on my land?
You really are a long way from home, aren't you?
This film is so charming. It's so lovely. It's kind of obvious in a way of, when you watch the trailer where it's going, but it's not, there's so much more going on so many levels, and it's brilliantly photographed too. Your cameraman, I have his name
Oscar
here.
Jimenez.
Oscar Jimenez.
Quite a talent. Yeah.
How many
wonderful.
days of shooting was this film?
We were on a very tight schedule. We shot 15 days total in Montana, in the Paradise Valley of Montana, and then we shot for 4 days in Tokyo. So 19 days total shooting. So, like that approach where we weren't getting every single angle and really letting the scenes kind of, there was a natural pace that's kind of built into the film, and that helped us a lot to move quickly, because we weren't, overburdening ourselves with too many angles in each scene.
Did you find yourself in the editing room at any point saying, geez, I wish I had done a close up here or a reverse or something like that?
Very rarely, actually. Yeah. And again, I have to credit Oscar Jimenez, our director of photography. The thing that I noticed about his work before he worked with us on Tokyo Cowboy, my producer Brigham Taylor introduced me to him, and he had done a film called Killing of Two Lovers. Very different film, very, it was kind of like almost a 4:3 aspect ratio. They like, it was almost black and white, but they had really kind of just like, brought a lot of the color out of the film. But what I saw there was that Oscar really had a great idea about what a scene is about, what the emotional core of a scene is, and where to put the camera. And so I really leaned on him. We would go into each scene with a shot list, and I'd do a like very, very basic kind of just like storyboard, which we mostly kept to. But I think then again, you really need to go in to each scene with a plan, and then as your actors kind of work the scene and you notice things, you may change that plan. Like it was very intentional to be very restrained with our camera.
How did you cast this picture, both the Japanese characters and the American?
Really different kind of process for the American actors as opposed to the Japanese. What we found out really quickly was that so in Japan we had the help of a very well-known producer there, Morio Amagi, who kind of put together a short list of actors that we should maybe consider. I was able to watch some different movies, and I saw Arata, and I was just really impressed with him. He was my first choice, Arata Ayura, who plays Hideki in our film. And so we got the script to him, and he reacted immediately. He loved the script and wanted to do it. But he said, but I'm not available for like 8 months to be in this film. So at first we were kind of thinking, oh man, well, we really want to shoot in the fall. Maybe we're going to have to, find another actor. But we soon realized that pretty much any actor that you want in Japan is going to be booked out 8 months, a year in advance. In fact, they oftentimes will come up with a concept for a film, cast it, and then write the script while they're waiting for the actor. So very, very different from American independent film casting, and we had a really wonderful casting director, Emily Schweber, in the United States. But she helped us learn that for an independent film where you really don't have a lot of money, you're kind of waiting until like maybe 2 months before you're going to shoot and seeing who's available, and then casting that way. Of course, we did Peg, Robin Weigert, who plays Peg. We did just make a straight offer to her. We had auditions for the role of Javier, and Goya Robles is just an amazing talent, and he just impressed us so much, and I'm so glad that we cast him in that role.
I'm Javier. What's your name again?
Hideki Sakai.
Hideki Sakai.
Yes.
Okay. So, you want to see the ranch, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So two very different ways of going about casting.
Does Arata speak English pretty well to begin with, or no?
No, he doesn't. And
Oh,
and that
really?
and that actually goes back to one of your original questions about, documentary type of techniques. This really was the same, the experience of Arata, who really didn't speak a lot of English, who had never been to Montana. His own personal experience was really mirrored in the character of Hideki, and so he had to practice very intensely to just get to the level of English that he uses in the film. And he was helped in large part by our actress and screenwriter Ayako Fujitani, who plays Keiko in the film. She spent a lot of time on
I
Zoom.
didn't realize that was that she was the screenwriter too.
She's also our screenwriter along with Dave Boyle. They co-wrote the script.
And how did this come about? Whose idea was this, and how did you find these two people and get financing for this?
Like the original kind of concept and idea. So I had lived in Japan when I was pretty young, like 19 years old. I was a missionary in Japan. I was mostly in Hiroshima for 2 years. And then after that, I went back and I was an apprentice to a very well-known Japanese director named Yoji Yamada. And so I worked with him on it was the 42nd film in the longest running film series in the world, Tora-san, Otoko wa Tsuraiyo. And so I worked with him, and it was really amazing experience. In fact, a lot of the things that I learned there really did have an impact on this film and the way.
Do you speak Japanese?
Yes. Yeah. Although I've lost a lot over the years, but I can get by. So around that same time, I saw an article in a magazine, and the title of the article was Samurai Slickers. And it was about a real ranch in Montana owned by a Japanese company. And they would send workers from Japan over to Montana to learn ranching. And they'd become Japanese cowboys. And it just kind of stuck with me, that idea. I just thought, that's a really cool idea. That could be a movie. And so all these many years later, after a long career in television and documentary, I figured it's really time to do my first feature. And I have a good friend from long time back, somebody that I knew in college, and then we also we were volunteers at the Sundance Filmmakers Lab. A guy named Brigham Taylor, who's a very well-known Disney producer. It was Brigham's idea to do Pirates of the Caribbean. He produced Jungle Book. He produced Christopher Robin. And I actually did the behind the scenes and bonus features on Christopher Robin. And after that experience, I was talking to Brigham and I said, I really want to make a feature. And he was very gracious and said, well, come to my office sometime and pitch me a couple of ideas. And this was the idea that I had kind of foremost. I want to make a film, an independent film about a Japanese cowboy. And he kind of got excited about it because it's very different from, all the Disney films that he was producing, and something a little more quiet, a little more just focused on characters and authentic behavior, and something that didn't have to be as formulaic and big, day and date release type of Disney film. So that's how we got going on it. And Brigham and I both share the story by credit for this film.
And you found the writers how?
Yes. So then Brigham knew Dave Boyle from another Disney project that he brought him in on that didn't end up happening. But he knew that Dave had been involved in several Japanese language films. So he contacted Dave Boyle, and then Dave had directed, he's not only a writer but a director, and he had directed a film called Man from Reno that Ayako stars in. And I learned that she was also a writer. And I really felt, both Brigham and I felt very strongly that we absolutely must have a Japanese voice in the creation of this film. And so Ayako co-wrote this screenplay with Dave and brought so much to it. And the first draft of the screenplay was almost ready to shoot. It was really, really well researched and just a lovely script, and we were ready to go.
What was the area, the budget, and where did the financing come from?
Yeah, it's just a little north of $1 million, and we I raised the money through independent private investors, mostly people that I knew from different walks of life, that mostly people that had never invested in a film before, just kind of believed in the project, believed in me, believed in Brigham, and were gracious enough to give us the money to go.
And what are the odds that, do you think, honestly, are they going to see their money in any profit? I mean, maybe it's too early to say, 'cause I know that the film has been in mixed city release since the end of August, right?
Yeah. It's been one of the it'll end up being one of the most successful independent films in Japan, but that's of course relative. It's a a country with a large population, but not many people go to see independent films, and so the jury's kind of still out. It's gonna take a little while. It's not going to be immediate, but I do really hope that we can pay back our investors. And it's it's kind of miraculous. Like very very few independent films, truly independent films, get a theatrical release. So to be in theaters right now, we're coming up on 120,000 in the box office in the U.S. and Canada, and our goal is to have the film in theaters for 10, 16 weeks, which I think we can do, and it's going really well, and it kind of miraculous, but it's difficult. That the independent film world right now is very difficult to get distribution and make your money back.
I would assume that the potential good money could be in streaming if you could make a good streaming deal up front, but I'm also guessing that the film has been down the line already to Netflix and Amazon. And
not really. They're of course, distribution changes drastically every 6 months or something like that. And a couple of years ago, we probably would have had some kind of offer from one of the big streamers by now. But the streamers right now, they're so focused on cutting costs now and not kind of owning the market and buying everything up. But now they're wanting to cut costs and only kind of focus on the projects that they're producing. But some of that is driven by theatrical and video on demand. We'll go to video on demand next, probably in November at some point. We'll be streaming somewhere, and we hope that our video on demand will be good. All those numbers are kind of driven by theatrical. If you have a good theatrical, if you're able to stay in the theaters for a long period of time and make some money there, it certainly helps. So that's what we're kind of focused on right now. But again, we're learning as we go. This is a huge education for both Brigham and I. Brigham, all of his films before for Disney, there's this pipeline. You just hand it over and there's this machine. And in this case, we're kind of learning as we go. But we were able to meet our distributor, Purdue, at a film festival in Utah, and they've been very enthusiastic about the film and getting it out there to theaters and booking theaters. So, and we were chosen as an artisan film by AMC, which was kind of cool. One of their signature artisan films, and we were in a lot of AMC theaters for the second week. So some good things have come about.
I would imagine, switching back to the production for a minute, that your experience working with real people in reality shows actually was a huge help dealing with actors, because working with non-professionals who are uptight about being on camera in the first place, you've already got like half the battle won by actors who can't wait to get their face in front of a camera, right? But I mean, what surprised you about working with professional actors?
Well, but what you're saying is very true. Like as a documentary filmmaker, so much of it is just getting that person to open up and be comfortable, and when you're doing a reality show or something like that, you find that after an afternoon of filming with somebody, like they have no choice but to just act naturally, because like the camera is just always there, so that's to your advantage. But I came out of acting world. I was in a lot of like plays and musicals when I was growing up, so I'm very familiar with actors and what they need, and as an actor myself, and so that certainly helped. And again, it's kind of like having just the right gentle hand to kind of guide them. With professional actors, you'll have a scene and you'll be like, hey, I really loved it, that one. I loved it when you touched your ear that way or something like that, and then the next take they're like, all over their ear because they're, like they take your note and they go with it. And so you really kind of have to be careful, not with your feedback sometimes and your direction. But I love actors, and I feel like I really understand actors, and I love to give them a platform to do their best work, and I'm constantly amazed. I'm so happy with our ensemble cast of Tokyo Cowboy. I honestly can say that I feel like there's not a false note in the film.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. I thought the cast was great. You did a wonderful job, and the film looks like a movie. It doesn't look like it was three guys in the back of a van with an iPhone.
Yeah,
it looks like
that's good.
What are you working on next? How has this project affected your career?
Yeah, well, this project came at an interesting time, because I actually had the first meeting with Brigham Taylor literally 1 month before the pandemic hit. And so we were already starting to talk about this narrative film project. And then everything that I was doing for Chevron, all these other clients, like it just like fell off a cliff, and there was no work. And so, it turned out to be a good time to be focused on this project. It's a big leap of faith. And because it's my first feature, I didn't take any salary to make the film, and neither did Brigham. And so like we lived off of our savings for a year and a half to make this film. And so like part of what I'm doing right now is, there's a lot of time spent promoting this film and trying to get it distributed and all those things. But I'm also trying to just like, crawl back financially and make some money to support my family. So I'm doing a lot of the work that I did before. I just went to Kuwait for a project for Chevron. That was a lot of fun. And there's a couple of different feature films that I have in mind that I'd really like to start soon to develop. I'm hoping this won't be my first feature film, but it'll be the first of many. So that's the plan.
Do you have an agent?
No. No, I've never had an agent, and I've never felt like I've needed one. Like one of the things I think that you discover, there's no cavalry coming to save you, and I think like most of what, at least for me, everything that I'm gonna get, I'm gonna have to create myself, and so I haven't felt like I needed an agent. If somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've got this great project and we'll hire you and I'll be your agent," like, then I'm sure I would consider it.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Westdoc. It was an unusual episode and a really terrific one for us. I'm really glad that we connected, and I think people should look for this film, Tokyo Cowboy, and when it comes to a streamer near you, which I'm sure it will be soon, put down your $5 or whatever to see it. It's very good. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.